everybody, my name is Revere. I'm about to be a third-year medical student in the United States, and this is all about how I studied for my STEP exam. Now, I was really debating whether or not I should make this video, but it was so highly requested. So I should start with a bit of a background of myself. A lot of medical students study for their STEP exam while they are in their first 2 years of medical school. And so when STEP comes around, they have a completely annotated first aid book. But I didn't do that. And the reason that I didn't do that was because I found that medical school was already very difficult and I didn't want to waste time studying for an exam that was months and months away. I really focused on what the professor was teaching me. So if they told me to read something the night before, I did. If there was pre-work, I did it. If there was a PowerPoint, I went to class and I studied the PowerPoints, and I studied every weekend for the following Monday weekly quiz. I did pretty well in all of my medical school classes. I mostly got A's and a few B's. That said, when I started studying for my STEP exam in February, I was a bit behind all of my other colleagues, and I had a rough start as far as getting good grades on my practice exams. I think in most medical schools in America, you have to be able to demonstrate that you can pass a practice STEP exam that your school offers you before they'll actually let you take the STEP exam. This is kind of interesting because they say that there's a 96% pass rate for the STEP 1 exam, but I don't think that accounts for the students who are never allowed to take the STEP 1 exam, because not every student passes the practice exam. STEP is actually a lot harder than most people might think. It's only 280 questions and the test is about 8 hours long. You need a 194 to pass, and 96% of people pass, but it's really difficult, I thought, in my experience. February 20th, 2018 is when I took my first practice STEP 1 exam, also known as a CBSE, a comprehensive basic science examination that my school paid for and allowed me to take, or forced me to take, really. At this point, I hadn't studied for my STEP 1 exam at all, so I basically didn't know anything, and I scored a 61 on my CBSE, which is roughly a 177 as a STEP 1 equivalent score. That is not passing. So I knew I had a lot of work to do. On March 23rd, 2018, about a month into STEP 1 studying, I scored a 64 on my CBSE, which is a 185 STEP 1 equivalent score, and again is still not passing. Now, to study for my STEP 1 exam, I went through first aid chronologically. So when I took this test, I had taken the first few chapters, which are biochemistry, immunology, and microbiology. So a lot of people would have looked at my results and thought, okay, you've been studying for a month and you still failed. I would be worried. But I wasn't really worried because when I looked at the bar results, I had done really well in what I had studied and not in what I hadn't studied. So I felt that my study method was working, and as long as I just got through the whole first aid book, I would be fine. So I stuck with my studying routine because I really believed in it. And on April 23rd, 2018, I scored an 85, which finally is passing, and I was now allowed to take my real STEP 1 USMLE exam. And good thing too, because I had scheduled it for May 1st, which was about a week after I took this. An 85 on the CBSE is roughly a 237 STEP 1 equivalent score. Now, what you get on your STEP 1 exam is really important because it kind of allows you to be a certain type of doctor. So if you score a 221, which is passing, you probably will not be able to be a plastic surgeon or a neurological surgeon, whatever that is, or a dermatologist. So the better your STEP 1 grade is, the more different types of doctor you can be. You can be any type of doctor if you score really, really high, and your options are really limited if you score pretty low. It isn't just enough to pass, you have to do really, really well. The first aid book has a pretty good graph about this, and you can see that certain residencies require a lower STEP 1 score, average, and then you can see as you go up, it gets a little bit more competitive. Now, I personally would love to be a general surgeon after medical school, so I looked at the chart, and the average score for those who matched into a general surgery residency was a 235. So getting a 237 on my practice CBSE exam was amazing news because it meant that my chances for matching at a general surgery residency were very good. And then came along May 1st when I actually took my real step 1 exam, and I was so nervous. I honestly thought I was going to have a panic attack in the car on the way there. I had to turn off all the music. I couldn't move, I couldn't speak, I couldn't hear any noise because I was going to have an anxiety attack. I was so filled with nerves. I really worked really hard this entire time to study, and here that moment was. I was about to take an 8-hour exam, and I was very scared. I actually vlogged my entire experience if you would like to check it out below, but basically I have been so relieved that that is over. So a few weeks go by and I'm living my summer life, my best life, and I'm having lots of fun, and I forgot all about STEP. And one day I wake up at like 3 p.m. and I'm super tired, and I realize that I have a lot of messages on my phone. I scroll through them, and then I see that I got this email. The heading says score report available today after 11 a.m. and it is from scores@nvme.org. So good news is that I passed, and I ended up scoring the exact same score that I scored on my last CBSE, which I got a 237. Now, the reason that I really debated making this video was because I told my mom, why would anybody want to watch a video about how a person studied to get a 237? Because obviously that's not the best grade in the world. It's not the worst by any means. It's a very good score, and it does what it needs to for me, but it isn't the best score around, and I was a little worried about uploading this, but my mom told me that if this video helps even one person in the entire world, then it is worth it. I feel like a lot of you guys look up to me, and I would want nothing more than to impress y'all, so here's my score. A lot of y'all wanted to know, so yes, I got a 237, which is great enough for general surgery, and I am so excited that my dream is within reach. It's actually well within reach, and I'm very excited about that. Now, without further ado, I will tell you how I studied. So one of the best resources that I loved was usmle-rx. This website cost me $99, but honestly, I think it was one of the best investments ever, because if you go over here, they have these things called express videos, which was the only thing that I bought, and you can go to browse videos. And as you can see over here on the left side, they have a video over every single paragraph or section in first aid. Now, first aid is super duper dense. This book is only 660 pages, but somehow has to condense 2 years of medical school inside of it. And so reading a paragraph is actually like reading and memorizing tons and tons of information. Having to read and read through a whole bunch of words, I knew would be really difficult for me to pay attention and stay focused. So I really wanted a website that would basically read step to me and explain it along the way. And I ended up finding usmle-rx, the express videos, to be the most helpful thing on the planet. Because you see, when you go through first aid, it isn't enough to just go through it or watch all of the videos. It's really up to you to make sure that you know the information, that you're really watching the video, you're understanding what they're saying, you're Googling questions that you don't understand, writing them in your first aid book, and making sure that you really understand it. You have a thorough pass. And I thought that this was very helpful because it's literally a video of a teacher explaining every paragraph to you. This is an unused and perfectly intact first aid 2018 book, and this was my disgusting, horrid first aid book. It was used hardcore compared to the nice clean version over here. While I was going through first aid, I was also watching the video related to that paragraph. So for instance, this little section is called Liver Tissue Architecture in the Gastrointestinal chapter. And so you could just go over here. The videos are about 5-7 minutes long. You press play. Oh my gosh, Arjun was my favorite.
So what's the deal with the liver anyway?
And without getting any copyright violations, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at that. These videos are so freaking amazing at explaining all the details in first aid, and I watched them as I went through first aid, and I found it so helpful. If you're wondering what I used to annotate my first aid book, I used these 3 Sharpie highlighters and these 3 school pens. You don't want a pen that's too inky, and I kind of wanted something that was smooth, and I found that these were perfect. And of course, tons and tons of whiteout. I went through 2 of these in my annotating process. As far as outside sources to answer additional questions that I had that usmle-rx and first aid didn't answer, I used Wikipedia and PubMed actually quite a bit, because the knowledge that you have to know isn't very common and sometimes can't be Googled easily. And whatever additional information you find from outside sources, just write it in the blanks. That way, if you ever need to refer to your first aid book, you have the information. One of my extremely awesome ideas that I came up with was creating a document called the What I Don't Know document. And basically, if there was ever a little piece of information from first aid that I knew I would not be able to remember during a first pass, I wrote it down in this document that is 82 pages long at the end when I was done. Kept it in here so that when I reviewed this document, and I tried to review 10 pages a day, I could see it over and over and over again until I knew it. So for instance, here are some T-cell disorders called the IL-12 receptor deficiency autosomal dominant hyper IgG syndrome and chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis, which I did not remember at all. So I made sure to write out all the information that was basically in first aid, put it in here so that I could review it over and over and over again. I tried to review 10 pages every single day. Like this is 10 pages right here, and it doesn't take too long, but it's super helpful because that way, not only do you know general ideas, big concepts and whatnot, you also know minute little tiny details. And this is really important because that's what separates decent, maybe just passing score versus a really amazing score. I also used flashcards for various cancer types, tumor markers, and HLA subtypes, things that I knew that I really had to repeat often, a lot more than just reading it every now and then. So I made flashcards and I had this to practice my details every single day, and I found that that was very important and helpful when I took my step 1 exam. Now to talk about pharmacology. Can you say ugh? Now when I first started studying for my step 1 exam, I didn't know basically any pharmacology at all. That was definitely my weakest area. I felt like I was going to be screwed, but alas, Sketchy saved the day. Now, I'm not being paid to say any of the things that I'm about to say. I am just this much of a fan of Sketchy Medical that I just want to scream it from the rooftops that every med student in the world should look at Sketchy Medical. Sketchy Pharm and Sketchy Micro, in my opinion, were the most helpful things in the entire world. I reached out to one of the creators of Sketchy saying, oh my goodness, I'm such a fan. You guys basically saved me for my step 1 exam, and they were so kind enough to send me a t-shirt. And if you look really closely and you've been through the Sketchy Micro, Pharm, and Path videos, you'll actually recognize a whole bunch of these characters. And this is just such a cool shirt, and I'm so honored to be able to wear it and say that Sketchy actually replied to my email. Now, why do I love Sketchy Medical so much? Because it is a godsend. Like, I really cannot emphasize enough how much you need Sketchy in your life to learn Micro and Pharm especially. I never got to use Sketchy Path, so I can't really speak on that, but I can speak on Sketchy Pharm and Sketchy Micro, and basically I'm telling you guys that it is a must if you're studying for your step 1 exam. Like, you have to use it. So I'm gonna show you how you use it. So here is their website. Here are their different plans, and you can choose if you want Sketchy Micro, Sketchy Pharm, Sketchy Path, or all 3, and for how long. And these are all the different types of videos they have. So for instance, they have 104 videos over Micro, and these are all of the bugs that they cover. Actually, here's the fungi that they cover, the viruses, and the parasites. And the reason that Sketchy Micro is so important is because there's so freaking many of these bugs. Here's an example of one of their videos, and this one covers the Colonoma medics, and it's got a fancy title, and as you can see, it's like a drawing in the background. And every one of these symbols in the drawing symbolizes something like the drug, what the drug does, how it works, adverse effects. If you can just see the image, you can memorize every single fact about all of these drugs. Now, memorizing all of these images is really hard, but it's a lot easier than just memorizing a bunch of random details about basically 500 different types of drugs and bugs. I had to watch Sketchy Micro 3 times through and Sketchy Pharm maybe 3 times through as well before everything kind of stuck with me. But once I did that, I was basically like a Pharm and Micro boss. So basically how I studied for pharm was I would just go through first aid, and as soon as I reached some pharm drugs, I would watch the sketchy pharm video over those drugs. I would use quizlet.com to create flashcards on the internet about all of the drugs as well. These were all of the quizlets that I made. I had a quizlet for the repro, step, pharm, respiratory, renal. This was just a whole bunch of random ones that I put together. Psych, neuro, MSK, gastrointestinal, endocrine, cardio. There's probably about 300 terms in all of my sets, and I would go through one of these every single day. So for instance, one day I would do renal, the next I would do this one, the next I would do psych, next day I would do neuro. So I definitely recommend watching the sketchy video to learn the facts and then practicing those facts that you've learned through Quizlets. The micro section was pretty much very similar. I would watch the corresponding sketchy micro video, and instead of making a Quizlet, I ended up just putting this in the what I don't know document because I pretty much sucked at microbiome and didn't know anything. So I just wrote out all of the notes over all of the viruses, bugs, and fungi, and protozoa inside of this document. And yes, this took forever, but by the end of it, I was a master. Now, of course, you have to practice what you are learning. So you have to find a question bank that you like, and the one that I chose ended up being UWorld Step 1 Q Bank. By the end of my studying, I had only gone through 54%. You would just create a test, make sure that it is timed because you want to replicate what the actual Step 1 exam will be like. I usually just went over my unused ones, and you can pick any subject you'd like, any system you want, and you can do up to 40 questions in a block. This is my performance score, and as you can see, I started off pretty low and gradually increased and got a little bit better. I personally find that the best way to do UWorld is to only do the questions over the stuff that you have reviewed in first aid. I don't think it is helpful at all to be doing random UWorld questions over all subjects when you haven't reviewed everything, because that's not really reinforcing knowledge to me. That is just setting yourself up for disappointment. But I mean, to each their own. Some people really like that strategy. I personally would rather be tested on things that I have a shot at even getting right. Whenever I got a question wrong in UWorld, I would be sure to go back in my first aid book, highlight it, and annotate it so that I didn't ever get that UWorld question or concept wrong in my head again. As far as tabs go, I'm going to show you the things that I found super important. So first stop, go ahead and tab the nutrition vitamin section because this shows up all the freaking time, and as someone who majored in nutrition, I ended up having to reference this all the time, so I'm sure everyone else might have to. This, oh my gosh, the G protein linked second messengers. This, oh my god, I have literally flipped to this page maybe over 100 times while I was studying, especially this lower area. And all of these facts, you have to know them so well just to basically understand pharm. The cytochrome P450 interactions, like the inducers, the substrates, and the inhibitors, I reference this literally like 50 times. Nephron physiology, this is an amazing graph and illustration in your first aid book that I would definitely recommend tabbing. I didn't reference this all the time, but it is just so helpful and it's worth knowing like verbatim. The cytokine section with all of these guys, probably reference this over 50 times. There are also a few things that I recommend drawing out, like drawing out the vascular system of the intestines is really helpful. Drawing out T-cell maturation in the thymus, understanding the stupid McAllis-Menten model. You need to write out the adrenal steroid synthesis pathways. Absolutely have to know the lysosomal storage diseases. Write this out, write it again, practice it every day. Oh my goodness, the HMP shunt and the respiratory burst. As you can see, most of the things that I drew out were biochem related because that section isn't something that you can just understand or just clicks. It's a lot of facts that you have to remember, which I learned by practicing over and over again. This is my really cool drawing of a sarcomere. You don't have to draw any of these things out if you don't need to, but anything that you feel that you struggle with, really take the time to understand. I feel like it's really easy when you're studying to just be like, that probably won't be on my test, or I'll take the hit on that one. Like, when you do that, you're basically telling yourself that I don't want a good score. I'm okay being mediocre. And this is like, it's such an important time, guys, to shine and really put in effort and work like you've never worked before. You can work hard. You can achieve your dreams. You can be that doctor that you want to be. So to summarize, I'm going to go through an example of a day during my step 1 studying period. So first I would wake up, realize that this is my sad life, and then get straight to work. Every morning I would write down my goals for the day so that I can stay organized and focused. I try to do all of these things every day, but sometimes I didn't always finish. 10 pages of first aid and usmle-rx videos, 10 pages of what I don't know, questions in UWorld, and a pharm quizlet, and today I did neuro. Now the goal was always to do 50 to 80 to 100 UWorld questions, but that didn't always happen. So I would put my goals aside and start on my 10 pages in first aid along with my usmle-rx express videos. Sometimes this step would take me 6 to 8 hours just because of all the videos I had to go through and all the questions I had to look up. And of course, I could never forget to review 10 pages in my What I Don't Know document. I would usually end the night doing some UWorld questions over the subjects that I had covered, and I would try to do 50, 80, 100, but most of the time ended up doing 30 to 40, unfortunately. And of course, can't forget to tackle those weak points every day, which for me was pharm. So I would pick a pharm quizlet and put them on flashcard mode and do this at least one set every single day. I studied from the time that I woke up till I went to sleep, which was roughly about 14 hours a day. I wanted to end with a few tips that I would like to share as someone who's already gone through this experience to someone who is in the middle of it or will be in it in the future. Now, it takes a while to get into the rhythm of studying. So in the beginning, you may not reach goals, continuously slack off, realize that a particular resource isn't good for you, realize that you have to change up your studying methods. And the beginning is really difficult because you don't know what works for you. I didn't know that this was the formula that worked for me until about a month into studying. So it takes a while to realize what it is you need to succeed, and that's okay. Another thing to consider is that you will not reach your goals every single day. Especially someone like me who has really big dreams, really big goals. It almost seemed like every day I was falling short of my goals that I had listed out. And you go through a lot of frustration and you feel like you're never good enough and that everything you're doing is never good enough. But it's okay because everybody feels that way because this is a very, very hard, stressful time. You're doing one of the most hard things in the entire world, I think. And it's okay if you don't reach your goals, and it's okay to take a break if you need one, and it's okay to start studying late if you need a break. It's okay. Just try your best, and that is all this world can ever ask from you. I don't recommend scheduling any off days because your body will just take an off day when it needs one. I probably needed an off day about once a week because I would get so stressed out that my body would just be like, no, we're not studying today. And I would try so hard to look at my computer, my first aid book, and it was just not coming in my head. And it's really easy to feel like a failure, but literally you just have to try your best. I will be so proud of you if you do your best. Another thing that I'd like to say is it's not enough to just look at the resources and do the videos or go through first aid. You have to be dedicated. You have to practice. Memorization takes practice and practice and practice. Practice the Quizlet every day. Go through your What I Don't Know document. Practice your pharm, your micro. Draw out the complex stuff. Don't take any hits. You deserve the best grade that you can get. In the end, do you want to feel like you fell short of what you are worth in this life? No, you want to try your best. A final note is reach for the stars. A lot of people, 1 month into studying, they can't pass their exam. It would have been really easy for me after failing my practice exams twice to just be like, okay, now I just want to pass. I just want to pass, or I just want to get a 210 or a 200 or a 220. Like, I'll just be happy if I do that. No. Don't do that. So many people do that. I just want to pass. If I just pass, I'll be happy. No, reach for the stars. Reach for that 300 that no one's ever gotten. Because if you reach for the stars, you'll land somewhere like between, where you are and in the middle. If you just plan to pass, you're gonna land somewhere around passing, and worst case scenario, you won't pass. And so that's not good. You have to strive to work the hardest you can get as if you will score that 300. So strive and dedicate yourself and work harder than you ever worked before. This is not the time to get lazy. This is not the time to go on breaks. This is not the time to settle. This is the time to work hard, harder than you ever worked. Wake up every day and try your best. Do as much as you can. You will be so surprised at how hard and how strong you will be at the end of it. It is going to be painful, miserable, it's gonna suck, but that's how you know you were putting your all into this. Like, my absolute all was put into studying for STEP. No one can tell me that I didn't try my best. People around me were scared about me. People were telling me, America, you're not sleeping enough, you're not exercising enough, you're not relaxing enough. But I didn't want to relax. This wasn't my time to relax. This was my time to show myself what I can do. And I didn't want to fail STEP. And I didn't want to kind of pass STEP. I wanted to do my best. And yeah, 237, not the best score, probably on YouTube. Not the best score that you probably heard about. But what the heck, I tried my best. I'm happy with it. That will definitely get me to be into a general surgeon residency, so it did what it needed to do. Those would be my tips for you guys. This is the time to show the world and yourself what you've got. You've got to put 100,000% into this. Where do I get the motivation from? I got the motivation when I realized that I wasn't taking my first month very seriously, and I saw people in my class already taking their Step 1 exam, and I was still failing. And I realized, look, these people have been studying for 2 years now for their Step 1 exam. And I'm never going to stand out compared to them unless I put my all into this. And one day I just woke up and I'm like, look, I'm tired of playing games, tired of messing around. I hope that this video was helpful to anyone. Thank you so much for Sketchy Medical for giving me this shirt. You have to try out Sketchy Pharm and Sketchy Micro, and maybe Sketchy Path if it works for you, because they are a must. Please check out usmle-rx. I'm not being paid. They didn't even know I existed, and I was using their resources, so trust me that this is coming from an honest place. usmle-rx, Sketchy Medical, first aid book, UWorld, and then use Quizlet and a journal to practice all of your facts. Thank you guys, everyone, so much for watching. I love you guys so much, which is why I want all of you to succeed and fulfill your wildest dreams. And to help you guys on that quest, I'm doing a little bit of a giveaway. It's not a big giveaway, but I'm going to give away a first aid USMLE Step 1 2018 book, which is the latest version, to one of my luckiest subscribers. All you have to do is be subscribed, like this video, and comment why you need this book, and I will pick my favorite comment. As always, I will see you guys in my next video. I love you all so much, and I wish you the best on your Step 1 exam. Goodbye, everyone.